in. We are live on YouTube. We are live on TikTok. We are live everywhere. Look at that. All right, everyone, go ahead and just give me one moment here to send a notification out in the updates channel of my Instagram. And then I'm going to get you guys in the loop. Live reacting to Trump's address to the nation. Find me on YouTube. Find me on TikTok. Cool. Everybody just give me one moment here to get everything up and running. I started the live before I sent out my messages, which probably wasn't a good idea, but I did it nonetheless for the first 2.5 thousand people tuning in. Once again, I really appreciate you so much for being here. I'm just sending out my announcements. I'm getting everything going. Once again, I should have done this before I started the live, but here we are nonetheless. And we are good to go. I'm going to go and load up the YouTube chat over on my laptop, so we are all good to go. We are moments away from hopping in to Donald Trump's address to the nation. Stand by. Phenomenal. We got the YouTube loaded up. We got the TikTok loaded up. Phenomenal. There we are, everybody. Okay. All right. So we have around 12 minutes here before we hop into Donald Trump's address to the nation. Maybe before we hop into the address for the nation in the next 12 minutes, it would be worthwhile going over with you guys everything that we got going on. And my scene doesn't work. That is just beautiful. What about this? Here, I'm going to try to do one thing for me. Okay, so the camera doesn't work if it's on multiple inputs. Okay, phenomenal. All right, anyways, I'm back. So for the very first 5,000 people that are tuning into the stream, regardless if that is on TikTok or over on YouTube, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to go to make myself full screen on TikTok just for now. Phenomenal. So I'm going to go ahead and give you guys the updates over everything that has been happening in the last hour and a half in the next 11 minutes before we hop into Donald Trump's address to the nation. So here's what we know. I'll go ahead and do a full recap for as many people as possible. First and foremost, around an hour and a half ago, Donald Trump and the American military dropped bombs on 3 nuclear facilities in Iran. And we are now learning that the Republicans in Congress were briefed on these strikes. However, the Democrats in Congress were not briefed on these strikes. That is coming from CNN in the last 2 minutes. We are also learning that we did have American diplomats brief Iranian diplomats on the strikes earlier today, so they knew they were coming. And the big thing on everybody's mind right now is, what will Iran's response be? So we are already getting word. I don't know if anybody in here saw my recent videos. We are already getting word that yes, Iran does indeed plan to retaliate. So on their state-directed TV channel in Iran, they played a message saying, "Mr. Trump, you started this, and we are going to end it." I believe that this statement absolutely and undeniably would promote the message to everybody that they do indeed plan to respond. Now let's talk about what that response may look like. So first and foremost, I would say everybody in mainland America is going to be safe. Iran does not have the capabilities to strike mainland America. Even if they did, I don't think they would. Now, this does not mean that they don't have the capability to strike things in proxy to mainland America. What we are expecting is strikes on U.S. military bases in the Middle East. We're it's possible that they may also strike American embassies in the Middle East. And the one big thing that I am the most afraid of, insofar as how it would hurt everybody in mainland America, would be them shutting down the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz every single day traffics around 20% of the global oil supply that is consumed. So if they were to shut down that strait, that would be incredibly detrimental to the oil supply chain. The negative repercussions this would have is A, on American oil markets. We'd see a massive crash in the markets. B, we'd be paying more for gasoline. C, we'd be paying more for a lot of goods because a lot of goods either require oil for their production or there's oil that's being used related to the transport of these goods from one location to another, regardless if that's on a ship, a plane, or a truck. But once again, I do just want to let every single person know that we are safe in mainland America. I do not believe that there will be any strikes to mainland America. At this point, we are around 7 minutes out from Donald Trump's address to the nation. We will be learning more about what's to come from his address to the nation. However, what I will say is I don't expect Donald Trump to use this as an opportunity to genuinely talk to the American people and give us comfort. I believe he's rather going to use this as an opportunity to justify the strikes, to make it look like we needed to do it, and possibly to even paint the mirage, the false mirage, that it was a good thing to do because it's in the prevention of further conflict. So that is starting in 7 minutes. We only have around 7 minutes before we will hop into that. And I cannot wait. I can't wait. I can't wait to hop into that. I can't wait to see what he has to say. But the real value that I think we will get in the next 24 hours is a better understanding of precisely what Iran's retaliation will look like. I also appreciate everyone for the gifts, regardless if that's on YouTube Super Chat or Venmo or PayPal. I think that there's been a couple that have come through. Because of the serious nature of this live, and I will not be reading off the donations, but I do see them, and I do really appreciate you guys. So real quick, I will go ahead and readdress some of the things I've already went over, such as what that retaliation from Iran may look like. That retaliation is most likely going to look like strikes on American military bases in the Middle East, U.S. embassies in the Middle East, or even shutting down the Strait of Hormuz, which could really fuck up the oil supply chain and put us in a lot of harm's way, fiscally speaking. And I'd say that's what we know for now. So now, of course, there's going to be speculation about what's to come out of this. We really just don't know at this point. If Iran doesn't back down and strikes back, I do believe that it is more likely than not that Donald Trump will use that as an opportunity to launch a full-out invasion of the region. And that may start a larger global conflict. So keep that in mind, but we simply don't know yet. But we will know very, very soon. This is very quickly moving, and I would completely expect us to have a really good idea of what this conflict will look like in the long term very, very soon. But once again, to kind of go over the news as reported since the strikes hit, let's see here. The administration has also said that they do not plan any additional strikes. I would take that with a grain of salt. I believe the reason why the administration said this was to position America as the good guy in a conflict that we had no justification to get involved with. I believe that we struck their facilities knowing they would retaliate, and knowing this, the Trump administration then came out and said that, guess what? We have no further plans to strike. We want peace. So when Iran does retaliate, all of a sudden the Trump administration can say, well, we wanted peace. We didn't want any more strikes. All we wanted was to end the conflict in the region. So I think that's possible that this is just being used as a tool to position America as a good guy in a conflict where we're obviously not a good guy. We have another 3 minutes here before Trump's address to the nation begins. At this point, I am going to go ahead and scale down myself and pop up Chrome. Let's go ahead and take a look. And everybody tuning in, I appreciate you for being here. We are 3 minutes away from Donald Trump's address to the nation. Looks like everybody is getting ready to host it live.
We carry a huge variety of
Okay, we're going to click off of that for a second. I don't want that ad to screw anything up. We are 2 minutes away from his live address to the nation, everybody. Let's honestly see if they're broadcasting it live on whitehouse.gov. They are. Perfect. Perfect. Awesome. Let's go ahead and load this up on YouTube, everybody. Perfect. How's it looking over on the YouTube stream? It's looking good over there. How's it looking on the TikTok stream? I'll do a little bit of work. If you guys wouldn't mind just bearing with me, we are about to begin shortly. This should be up and running in no time. We are around 2 minutes out from the beginning of the address to the nation. We are 2 minutes out. Audio looks good. Looks good over on YouTube. Phenomenal. Okay, well, for the 12,000 people joining us in here today, welcome into the stream. We are less than 1 minute out from Donald Trump's address to the nation. I will go ahead and recap a handful of the things that we've been discussing in the 60 seconds that remain before his address starts. I believe that the Trump administration is positioning America as the good guy in this conflict, saying that we don't intend any more strikes, that we want peace, knowing that Iran will retaliate once again. We have now learned that, yes, Iran does indeed plan to retaliate. They broadcasted a message on their state media saying, Mr. Trump, you started this and we are going to end this. I do not believe that retaliation will hurt, harm, or affect us in any physical way in mainland America. So you are safe, but I do believe if you are deployed overseas at a military base in the Middle East, that you are a potential target. Same thing with American embassies in the Middle East. And also, they, as I said earlier, have the ability to shut down the Strait of Hormuz, which controls 20% of the global oil consumption every single day. If they were to shut that strait down to pressure America into backing off, you'd be paying more for gas, you'd be paying more for anything plastic, you'd be paying more for any good that you consume, because either oil is involved with its production, or oil is involved with its transportation from point 1 to point 2. It's 9. We're going to go to unmute the stream. We have the audio going. We are expecting Donald Trump to hop on here at any moment now and give an address to the nation. Any moment here, we should expect to see the Orange Menace pop on screen and give his address. And after we watch the address, I'll break it down. I'll give my thoughts. I'll tell you what I think is true. I'll tell you what I think is false. And we may even get a panel as well. So the Orange Menace should be popping up right here anytime. In fact, we are now 1 minute past the posted time of the start of the live stream. For everybody joining us, for the 4.5 thousand people on YouTube and the 23,000 people on TikTok, thank you for being here. As well as Alexandria with the $15 over on PayPal, saying thank you for being a source of information in a very dark time. I said I wasn't going to read off any donations, but I wanted to read that one off because I thank you for that. Any moment now, we should expect this to start. Any moment we should expect this to start. It looks like the Trump administration is already late, as usual. Missing the mark, as usual. Now, I want, maybe while the stream is starting, we're already, it looks like 2 minutes past when it was supposed to start. I believe that it is incredibly important to point out what you guys may hear. The first thing that you may... We'll go ahead and give my thoughts after the stream. It has started. I'm going to go to mute my mic. We're going to sit back and watch together. Here's Donald Trump addressing the nation.
Thank you very much. A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before. And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Raisin Kane, spectacular general, and all of the brilliant military minds involved in this attack. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight, not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago. Tomorrow, General Kane, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon. And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say, we love you, God, and we love our great military. Protect them. God bless the Middle East. God bless Israel. And God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
That was very, very, very concerning. And we're going to break down exactly why that was incredibly concerning. I'm going to go ahead and throw myself back up on the large screen on TikTok, and we're going to break that down together. I am predicting a very bad outcome of all this for a handful of reasons. First and foremost, it was not even an hour ago that the Trump administration said that they were done with the strikes and the last bomb had dropped on Iran. Now, in this speech that we all watched together, all 50,000 of us, 45,000 on TikTok and 5,000 on YouTube, Donald Trump said that there is many more to come if they don't do what we want. And this is scary. This is really scary for two main reasons. The first main reason that this is absolutely terrifying is this is sending Iran a very unclear message. On one hand, we're telling Iran that we're not going to strike them again. On another hand, we're telling Iran that we might strike them again and that we can in 2 seconds, as Trump just told us. Now, this reminds me a lot of the American government going into a nuclear peace agreement with Iran, stating that if they don't develop nukes, we'll unfreeze their bank accounts in South Korea and we will be at some level of peace. Donald Trump then pulled us out of that deal in his first administration, sending an unclear message. What is it? Do we want an agreement with them or do we not want an agreement with them? Right? And he's doing the same thing today. Are we going to stop bombing Iran? Or are we not going to stop bombing Iran? This unclear message is very dangerous because it positions America as a very unreliable negotiator. If we want peace with Iran, positioning ourselves as an unreliable negotiator is not the way to get it done. Okay? Another reason why this is incredibly scary was because in his speech, he said that all of the terror in the Middle East is to blame on Iran. All of the thousands of troops that died in our war in the Middle East onset by Bush was ultimately the fault of Iran. That's what he said. Okay? And this is doing the same exact thing that Bush did, as identifying an enemy. In Bush's circumstances, that was Afghanistan and Iraq. In Donald Trump's circumstance, it's Iran. Saying that they are to blame for death, pain, horror, and harm to thousands and thousands of Americans, and saying that they have caused all the terror, all of the horror, and all of the unsettlement. Now, the positioning of Iran in such a light, in my mind, is preemptively giving America some lever of PR worship if we decide to respond to whatever retaliation they show to America with boots on the ground, just like Bush did. I see him positioning America as the good guy, even though we entered into a conflict unprovoked when we had no good reason to get ourselves involved. And one last thing we will say here, kind of going over everything that Donald Trump just shared with us, is this. At the end of his speech, he said that we worked with Israel, and this is God's work. God bless Israel. God bless America. All right? And this speech is echoed by a lot of people that will try to convince you that America needs to do whatever Israel wants us to. Not America first, Israel first. That is the positioning that we're seeing from Trump here. He's saying that this is an action of God. God is blessing us. God is with us. And what this means is that, well, if Israel does something and asks America to join in the fight, well, it's the right and it's the holy thing to do. So he's positioning America as the good guy. He's positioning any actions that we take towards the Middle East and Iran as holy and of God. And this positioning is exactly what we saw with Bush, with the endless war in the Middle East that cost us trillions of dollars and thousands of American lives. And that's it from Trump for the evening. The next step is seeing how Iran responds. What Iran does, to whom, when, and where. Is it possible that Donald Trump's tactic of dropping bombs on them and saying we will drop more if you don't, turn over on your belly and do whatever we want, is it possible it will work? Sure, it's possible. Is it likely it will work? Absolutely not. We're already seeing the statements aired by Iran saying that Mr. Trump started this and we're going to end it. We've already been told that Iran is going to strike us back if we strike them. And that's also exactly what they did to Israel. Okay, when Israel struck Iran, what did Iran do? Well, they didn't roll over and show their belly, even though Israel is well equipped and backed by America. They hit Tel Aviv the hardest it's ever been hit. So I think keeping that in mind is important. And the next 24 hours, the next 24 through 48 hours are going to be incredibly, incredibly, incredibly important for the long term as it relates to our foreign affairs and re-entering into war. But if I could have you all take one thing away from this live, one thing away from everything I've been saying, one thing away of what we just watched of Trump, we are already in war. Striking their facilities was an act of war. America is at war with Iran. And for everybody asking what Iran said, Iran does not have an official Twitter account. There's a bunch of fake Iranian Twitter accounts. The only true Iranian Twitter account is a Twitter account that of their supreme leader. I just checked. He hasn't said anything for 7 hours. The only word that we've heard from Iran, once again, is that they plan to respond, that they're going to quote unquote end it, right? Now, those are all, of course, very bad things. Now, what's this mean for you? How should you feel? If you're concerned about your physical safety, keep in mind that Iran does not have the military capability to strike mainland America. Everybody in mainland America will be physically safe and sound. But if you want to ask yourself the question, how can we be hurt? Well, I have an answer. So one thing that Iran could do in response to our aggression earlier today would be to shut down the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz is something that CNN isn't talking about, that NBC isn't talking about, that AP is not talking about, that MSNBC is not talking about. Nobody is talking about the Strait of Hormuz, and everybody needs to start talking about it right now. The Strait of Hormuz is a strait controlled by Iran and the Iranian government, and the strait oversees 20% of the global daily consumption of oil on a 24-hour basis. Right now, they are well within their rights to shut that strait down and to prevent the transportation of any oil through that strait. Now, what are the pros and cons of Iran doing this? There's a lot of cons. Completely just erupting the global oil market into a crisis that negatively impacts them. Reduces their reliability in managing the strait, as well as all the negative implications that a restricted access to oil would have on them as well. Okay? But what are the pros of doing this from their perspective? Well, this would pressure the U.S. and Western countries into backing off. Because if they were to shut that strait down, what happens? Your gas is more expensive. Okay? Global oil supply chains are disrupted. Okay? Every good that you buy that either is produced with oil or oil is involved with its transportation is hit hard. Now, this would be a strategically good move for them because this would absolutely lead to an increase in anti-war sentiment of Americans and a stronger pressure on our leadership to back off. So because of the strategic advantages as shutting down the strait, it needs to be looked at as something that they might do. So keep that in mind. But apart from them shutting down the strait, okay, nobody in mainland America will be hurt. Other retaliatory responses they could give don't concern mainland America, because we'd be talking about things such as striking U.S. military bases in the Middle East or embassies in the region. Now, if you are curious, I've seen a lot of people curious about that, so let's go over this. What about China? What about Russia? What about North Korea? Well, I would say right now it's too early to tell. Have these countries come out in support of Iran? Yes. So Iran was able to achieve a deal with Russia where they've sent 500 Russian scientists to the state to help them work on their nuclear capabilities. Okay. Russia supports Iran. China has said they support Iran. India has said they support Iran. North Korea has said they support Iran. So this is all speculation. This is all speculative. Okay, we need to keep that in mind because we don't know what's going to happen next. But what could happen is we deploy boots on the ground because they strike back. Donald Trump says we have the high ground. We're the good guys. We're the holy guys. We only wanted to attack once and then wanted peace, and then they struck back. It's their fault. So we put boots on the ground. We strike them again, and we strike them harder. Then countries like Russia, China, North Korea, India stand behind Iran. What would that look like? Well, I don't believe it would look like World War III. I'm going to be honest. I don't think it'd look like World War III. We'd probably see that support by proxy through weapons, ammunition, or funding. Right? But even then, the likelihood is low. Even then, the likelihood is low because then they piss America off. Donald Trump would probably respond by raising the tariffs, sanctioning them to hell. That's not fun since we dominate 30% of the global market. So they may not even do that. We don't know yet. We don't know yet. So I'll say this to everybody that is incredibly terrified and scared shitless. It is too early to know exactly what the long-term outcomes of this will be. But if you're mainland American, you're not in the military, you're not overseas, I'd say you're safe for now. The possible negative outcomes on you could be economically, if they were to decide to shut down that strait. But keep that in mind. You're safe. I said you're safe for now. No, I meant to say you're safe. With everything that we know, sorry, that was really dooming. You're safe. With everything we know right now, you're safe. Sorry for saying for now. Everybody in mainland America is safe. And another discussion that has popped up was, did Donald Trump have the legal authority to launch the strikes at Iran? I've seen a lot of people talking about this. Did Donald Trump have the legal authority to launch the strikes on Iran? Well, according to a handful of members from Congress, the answer to that question is no. According to MSNBC, it was unconstitutional. Now, I'm not a legal scholar, nor have I researched it too much, so I don't know what the direct answer to that would be. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. But if it was unconstitutional for Donald Trump to do this, he's gone full dictator. Now, I have a question for you guys. How would you feel about me getting a handful of incredibly intelligent people up here on the panel to break down their thoughts, what's running through their head, their breakdown of Donald Trump and his address to the nation, and so on? Because I'm seeing a couple people in the queue right now that I would think might have very valuable takes on what's going on. How about we do that now? We're going to go ahead and load up a handful of people in the box. I should have let them up before I asked that because now the queue is filling up and I can't find them anywhere. Oh no, I should have. Oh no, I'm letting random people up here. Who the hell is this? Get the hell out of here. Sorry. I didn't even mean to click on you. Sorry. Whoops. All right, everyone, give me a moment here. We're trying to get, there we go. There's Denisha. We're trying to get Denisha and Jaden up here. Welcome in, Denisha.
Hey, Dean. Hi, everyone.
How are you doing tonight?
Fuming. What is going on in this country?
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to go ahead and bring Jaden up here as well. I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic over to you two. I would love for your thoughts on what the hell's going on in the world, your thoughts on a strike in Iran, your thoughts on Donald Trump's address to the nation, and the fallout that we might see in the short term, the long term, and where we might be at a week from now, a day from now, 2 days from now, etc. I'll go ahead and give you guys the mic.
I mean, first of all, I have continued frustration about unconstitutional behavior by the president. I guess it's still somewhat up for speculation if his act was unconstitutional or not, but to my knowledge, it didn't have congressional approval, making it unconstitutional in my eyes. But that's, not something new to his behavior. Secondly, this feels very much so like we are yet again putting American resources and American lives at risk, regardless of how this progresses, for another country's special interests, especially based on the continued rhetoric that has turned out to be lies for decades about nuclear weapons that Iran allegedly has and has never shown us, has never attacked us with. And so I'm very, very frustrated across the board. I think this was a terrible decision.
Yeah, I think his inability to recognize long-term effects of his foreign policy is not only to his detriment, but to the detriment of the United States. This was his doing with the unraveling of the Iranian nuclear deal and his inability to see such foresight in their ability to enrich themselves with weapons grade uranium put us in this exact position that we're in today. And so now to argue that somehow he is to be trusted in handling the very situation that directly is a result of his actions or inactions is laughable. And I find it hard to fathom that this is the side that loudly and proudly proclaimed that they were the peace candidate, that they were the peace party, that they were anti-war and no new wars. And suddenly, what we're hearing tonight is this is just one of many targets to come. And I don't know that there is an official death toll out right now. We can only speculate so far as how many people were injured or unalived, but this doesn't bode well for us, nor our allies. There's nothing remotely good that can come out of this.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with both of you more. I think the main takeaway from what both of you guys are saying is there was no obligation that America had to step up and fight Israel's fight for them. And it makes everything worse. There's not a single way that we benefit. There's not a single way that we benefit. It increases global tensions. It inches us closer to a third world war. However, I have repeated that we are not there yet. I want to make sure I'm clear about that. And it is terribly disruptive, could be disruptive for global supply chains. It puts our allies in spots forcefully that they might not want to be in. So it reduces, it reduces the efficacy of the relationships that we have with them. And yeah, I mean, I can't believe it. You know, the one thing that Donald Trump said in his speech that is still sticking with me right now that pissed me off was appealing to God and God's love for Israel and God's love for America and placing Israel first. If anybody ever tries to tell you that the Trump administration is America first, absolutely not. They're Israel first.
It is actually blood boiling to watch all of these quote unquote American politicians tweet the Israeli flag before the American flag, or not even the American flag. It's insufferable. I cannot even bear it. They need to be not only removed from office, but I'd argue removed from this country.
Yeah, I think AOC hinted at impeachment, and we may see that develop in the next few days here. But what's currently being referenced is Article 1, Section 8, Clause 11, which grants Congress the sole authority to declare war. And it appears as though Donald Trump has violated that. We'll see whether or not that escalates into full-on impeachment inquiries and hearings. I don't know that that would be successful given the current makeup of this Congress, but I think we're likely to see increased calls for either his resignation or impeachment.
I hope so. I feel like we've continuously seen this administration go on a successful run of doing whatever they want to, and hopefully this is going to be the last straw.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we are definitely seeing a growing support for impeachment. I tweeted out an hour ago, impeach 47, and it's already at 61,000 likes. I mean, I don't know what that means, but I think what that shows is growing support. Right now is a great opportunity to rip the Band-Aid, present the articles of impeachment, and pass them through. We wouldn't need that many people on the right. We just need enough people in the GOP to open their eyes, recognize that the American people don't want war in the Middle East again. Recognize, Sasha, appreciate you for the strong finish. Recognize that the American people don't want countless American troops to lose their lives and trillions of dollars to be added to the debt. That Americans don't want more destabilization in the Middle East, which will lead to the overthrow of more authoritarian regimes. And I don't know about you, if there's any Christians watching this live, I bet you do not want the name of your God to be mishandled in vain to justify the ruthless, tyrannical slaughter anywhere in this world, for any means, at any time, whatsoever.
I think there was one Republican that came out initially. I can't remember his name, but he's shown himself to be one of the few good Republicans in Congress. He's in disagreement with this, and hopefully, the consensus around this shifts very quickly within the Republican Party. Ultimately, top Republican senators and members of Congress are endorsing this. And I think so far as he continues to have that sort of bully pulpit, the propaganda farm is going to only increase within the United States, and that we'll see adopted rhetoric from this side that pushes forward a more warmongering message, that more so than we've already seen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. RSX. Thank you. At this point, it may be worth hearing from the voice of somebody on the right.
Massey, that was it.
Seeing where the voices on the right stand. Is there anybody watching right now that considers yourself a Trump supporter that would like to come up here and tell us how you feel from your perspective, how this coincides with the goals of the Trump administration that you voted for, that you support, what this means for your support, and how this changes your prospect? Looks like there is quite a few people. And Romy, thank you for the $40 over on Venmo saying carry on, kid. That is incredibly kind of you. Thank you. Thank you. That is incredibly kind. I will go ahead and invite a handful of people up.
No new wars. Kamala's sending you to war.
The No New Wars president, everyone.
Oh, you know what? Actually, you know what might actually be better? You guys want to take some questions?
Sure.
Oh, sounds good. I think that would be better. I'm also going to bring Santana up. If you are watching and you'd like to come up here and ask a question, go ahead and type a me down below in that chat. We'll invite one person up at a time, and we'll take a single question from one person, and we'll probably get a handful of people up here. And let's go ahead and do that now, everybody. So if you have a question, also, I would like to clarify that you do have to be at least 18 years old. You do have to be at least 18 years old to come onto TikTok Live. That is a part of the TikTok TOS. But let's go ahead and do that now. We are going to go ahead and load our first guest in. Izzy. Izzy's loading into the stream. Welcome in, Izzy. You said that you had a question. Ask away.
Yeah. So I'm not a Trump supporter, like to like come from a point. I just like have a question kind of like about what's going on.
Yeah.
So I'm not like super involved in politics, but um I guess like kind of where I'm kind of not understanding is I do agree that like maybe bombing Iran wasn't the best idea, but I do feel like we need to do something about it because they were, from what my understanding, like threatening us, this and that. I also am coming from a place of my brother's in the military, so it's a little scary watching, us potentially going into war and knowing that he's an active duty in that, like where he's stationed right now, they would be the first people to go out to the Middle East.
Right.
So I guess my question is, other than I guess, bombing, what do you think we as America should do about the Middle East? Because I don't think that it's something that we need to ignore, but I also don't think that we need to be fighting Israel's wars for it and bombing their, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that makes sense.
Good question. Well, first and foremost, I'm not a religious man, but I'm praying for your brother. That's a very scary position to be in. So I feel for you and your family and your brother. That is a very, very scary position to be in. Now, about your question, here's a good response. So, I think that we need to rule out restarting war in the Middle East as a viable solution to deal with issues in the Middle East, as it is war in the Middle East that has led to the overthrow of authoritarian regimes in the region. Okay? Think about Iraq and Afghanistan. When we entered into Afghanistan, Afghanistan had a government. When we left Afghanistan, Afghanistan had the Taliban. And we see this destabilization occur every single time we start conflict in the region. And the more conflict we start, the more destabilization that happens, and the more overthrow of these authoritarian regimes that occur. So I don't think that's going to be a viable solution. Now, speaking of viable solutions, I think we should seek diplomacy. I think that we should position ourselves as a reliable negotiator that at the end of the day just wants what's best for America. And we need to support systems to end the rule of authoritarian regimes by offering solutions to the problems that persist to allow these authoritarian regimes to rule. And we should not restart that problem of more conflict and more destabilization, as it will only produce worse outcomes.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was just because obviously I don't. It's like in my head, like it is like scary seeing that like Iran, like because I guess like I'm a little confused of like what's true or not, and I guess like I need to keep doing my research and whatever. But just I don't really agree with going straight to bombing. Like that's not like I
Oh,
feel like there's steps. You know what I
I
mean?
apologize for interrupting you. There's something else that you said that I didn't respond to, and
No, you're
Santana,
good.
Jaden,
Go ahead.
and Denisha, feel free to add in if you'd like. But you'd also said that
Yeah.
Iran was making threats to America. So first and foremost,
Right.
a lot of the threats to America that we've seen have not been from official state-sanctioned social media accounts. There is a lot of fake social media accounts that claim to be state-sanctioned that aren't state-sanctioned. The only true threats that we've seen from the country are A, that if we strike them, they're going to strike us, and B, Mr. Trump, you struck us. Now we're going to end it. All right.
right,
But
okay.
I will
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
I will say, right? Even if they have made threats, because you're right, they have been chanting death to America for a very long time. That is right. They have, and I don't like that. But that I don't think that justifies a military
Yeah, no,
invasion
of
or
course not.
takeover war. Because Kim Jong Un does the same thing every day. We shouldn't nuke North Korea. Putin
Yeah.
has many words for America. Yet, like for instance, Putin has threatened us so much under the Biden-Harris administration, saying that if we continue to support them, that is an act of war and we're doomed. Yet the GOP says that we need not get involved. So why don't we say the same thing?
Right.
here?
No,
Yeah.
that makes no. Okay, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you.
Yeah.
No, first of all, I just want to say your question makes complete sense. And I think you pointed out something unintentionally that is important as well about not knowing what is true or false. And I think the first step when it comes to this conversation and quote unquote what we do about the Middle East is there something to be done about the Middle East? Which sounds really crazy, but just walk with me. Netanyahu has been claiming that Iran has had nuclear weapons since the 70s. And we have shown up to attack these weapons that we have not seen and have not shown up to attack us every single time he's done that. So before we even enter a conversation of what do, we need to make sure that we are dealing with the truth. We are dealing with the facts. We're not showing up to fight somebody's wars that we don't need to be fighting over accusations that are not even true. Secondly, America is the big guy on the block. We are the biggest and we are the strongest. And with that responsibility means we have to make sure that we're not being heavy-handed in places where it's not necessary. I love that Dean brought up the North Korean reference where it is true. We're consistently threatened. We're consistently mocked and jeered. There's constant threats of death to America. But are those actually realistic or, beliefs that can be put into praxis or come to fruition? A lot of the time, the answer to that is no. And so showing up to bomb Iran, especially without congressional approval, is a disastrous choice, and it sets a terrible precedent and is completely unnecessary, in my opinion, at this juncture. I think we have to start with what is true about what's happening in Iran, what is true about what's happening in the Middle East, and taking the incremental steps to seek diplomacy and resolution without being heavy-handed.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to pick up on that point for you, Izzy. You had asked what the alternative to war is, and I think more specifically, and Denisha touched up on that a moment ago, we need to revive nuclear diplomacy with clear incentives. So what that looks like is we need to revive negotiations, either to revive or replace what was in place previously, which was the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or the GCPOA. That provided a framework that initially addressed Iran's nuclear ambitions, the missile program, regional activities, et cetera, et cetera. What we can offer within that is phased sanctions reliefs tied to compliance. We can do things such as reducing enriched uranium stockpiles and other IAEA inspections. Further, I think there needs to be a call and push for support for internal reform and civil society. We need to amplify Iran's civil society. There's very clear growing dissent against the regime. We need to provide covert and indirect support for activists, independent media, reformist figures, et cetera, et cetera. Push for structural, political, and social change within that region. That is what the people are asking for. Further, economic engagement. We have to reduce tensions within that. We need to offer targeted economic incentives, such as access to things like global market investments, things like that, of which right now they don't have access to. And I think lastly, regional de-escalation and confidence building measures. So we can broker dialogues between Iran, Israel, and the Arab states in order to reduce risk of further escalation, and not bringing these countries to the table isolates them, puts them in a state of paranoia, puts it in a state in which it's sort of a he said, she said, they've got a bomb, they might have a bomb, they might bomb us kind of situation. If these parties are not at the table conversing with one another, then there's only such a great deal of secrecy that adds to this paranoia.
Yeah. And I'll just kind of troll on not to, I mean, everything that's been said is very accurate. The only other thing that I would say is we have to hold our leadership accountable, right? I
Right.
mean, understanding that this action was taken without congressional approval is a huge deal, right? And for anything that we do as a country, I mean, our government is supposed to do what's best for the American citizens. And in this situation, it can be looked at as them doing what's best for Israel, right? Which, I mean, they've already called out the fact that Bibi Netanyahu has been saber rattling for a while, especially when it comes to Iran. And we need accountability for the people that we put in power, and making sure that we don't just blatantly follow behind, one party, or saying, I support this because this is who I voted for. At this time, we have to have accountability. We have to understand that there's a need for the leadership to do what's best for us, and we have to be the voices calling them out if they don't. And so this is important.
Yeah. I'm not gonna like sit here and say that I know everything about the US government because I took AP Gov this year. But
How old are you?
It's more than
I'm
Republicans.
18. I literally turned 18 yesterday.
Happy
ahead.
birthday.
Thank you. But I remember it was like weird because we literally had this discussion and I wrote an essay on whether it's constitutional or not if during a time of war or time of conflict for a president to launch an airstrike, and I remember arguing against it, like that it was unconstitutional. So it's just like weird how like this is all coming into place. But anyways, I just want to say thank you for answering my question. You guys are great. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm gonna let someone else hop in.
Thank you. Have a good rest of your evening. As well as we're just getting word of yet another new post by Donald J. Trump on Truth Social.
Oh, Lord.
Saying,
Should I read it in his voice?
oh yeah, and it's all caps, Jaden.
Trump. Of course it is. Like what the hell kind of it's like that movie The Shining. The way he types. Let's see what he says here. Oh Lord. Any retaliation by Iran against the United States of America will be met with force far greater than what was witnessed tonight. Thank you, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. Okay.
I'm a little shocked.
It was deranged.
So
Can
that's
he not like put the caps shit on all the time?
yeah, the cap shit makes him look crazy, but
It does. It's unhinged.
Anyways, so this is dangerous, guys. Iran has made a promise to retaliate, and Trump has made a promise if they retaliate, we'll hit them harder. So
It's just unfortunate because this is repetitive. This is the thing that we should be smarter than. This is the thing we should be beating. We've lived through this.
No, this is not the language of a de-escalation tactic.
No. I mean,
Well-
the constant escalation, the back and forth, I mean, at some point, diplomacy has to take place. And the issue that we have is that we don't have a diplomatic leader.
what he's going for here is the threaten to wipe them off the face of the planet so they have to roll over on their belly and give up. That's what he's going for. is bringing the fists down hard and quick to get them to roll over. I don't know if it's going to work. But we'll go ahead and take one more question, and then I am going to be off for the night. So let's go ahead and get one more guest up here before I'm off for the night. And just
I must say, this news was rather disorienting, personally. I woke up from a nap, and I thought that this was fake. I thought I was still dreaming when I saw this, but everyone in my messages was saying we struck Iran, and it only continued with this bullshit press conference today. Well, not conference, but speech.
yeah, I was live when the news hit. It was dystopian, man. I just wasn't expecting it. Even though I was expecting it, I wasn't expecting it. It was one of those scenarios. But we're gonna go ahead and let one more person up for one more question for the panel. So
I'll tell you what,
what's that?
this is the second night in a row my live has been interrupted by something. Like literally, oh man.
What was it last
It
time?
just yeah, it shook my life. So yeah, that was awesome.
I know, man. Well, let's get that last guest up here. We got Exact Beats loading into the stream. Welcome in, Exact Beats. Do you have a question for the panel?
Oh, that, Santana. Yeah.
Hey guys. So I just, I don't know. I was born in 1979, right when the revolution happened, and I know I'm from Los Angeles, so I know a lot of Iranians, and I wonder, what we really know about this country. We just pretty much took out their entire, war fighting capabilities, and we don't. I don't know. I worry about what's going to happen here in the U.S. soil. I wonder what, it's really, Ted Cruz didn't know that Iran had almost 100 million people.
Right.
He didn't care, and I actually think I'm pretty conservative. I'm just scared. Did Trump do any fighting like this in his last term?
No, and I think we can draw a reference on when he struck General Soleimani and the attacks that came down on U.S. troops, of which he dismissed legitimate brain injuries and head injuries as mere headaches. So they've indicated a desire to strike U.S. troops, civilians, citizens that are currently residing in Israel and in the Middle East. This does not spell a good situation for the U.S. military or for our leadership.
One more question for military
Yeah.
guys. Do you think Iran has direct energy weapons that are not nuclear based, but maybe of a different origin that they could use to retaliate? Because they mentioned they have stuff
Yes.
that we don't know about.
Yeah,
And that's what they would use against an Israeli or an American target.
possibly.
Yeah, I don't know about specifically what they have, but they are using a unique strategy as far as the way that they're actually going about bombing, with an overhaul of missiles where they're shooting off. I think they said like 180 to 190 in a short amount of time, and then they're switching the type of missiles to have more highly precise hypersonic missiles. So they're being really strategic as far as how they're going about it. The one thing I will tell you is I have a lot of friends and family that are in different parts of the military, and I've been in contact with them even before this and now. And the confidence that they have as far as leadership, it's not great. And even more so, the understanding as far as where we are right now, there's a lot of emphasis being put on preparing for what comes next. So I'm really, that's why I keep saying like diplomacy is needed, attention and making sure that we hold our leaders accountable. It's needed because there is a sense of like this isn't it. And I know Trump said like, oh, there must be peace now, but this feels more like a start than a finish.
Exactly. I think that's what is the most telling and worrying to me. It isn't direct combat. I think America is suited for that. It's just not something that we should ever want to have to do. I think what worries me is that these types of things are typically proxy wars and a lot more insidious. And when the rhetoric starts of, oh, well, so-and-so has weapons and you need to show up for this and you need to fund this. And again, we've seen this before. We saw it in 2001. We saw where the rhetoric led us. We saw how attacks were on American soil. It it starts to be a very insidious thing, and that's what worries me for people's lives, because people end up dying who do not need to be dying for foreign interests or unjust interests in unjust causes.
Absolutely.
I was going to say one more thing to your point about, or somebody's point about coming in there and like appealing to the people and trying to win the hearts and minds of the Iranians. And I just think this is much different than Iraq. You know, we tried to do that with Iraq, and we were actually kind of successful in at least preventing, you know, a major like government from establishing itself there. But like, what if something happened where we bombed one of their mosques by accident? I mean, errant missiles and you know, these guys are going to be scared flying into this country. They've done a lot of simulations, but they've never actually flown over and engaged in these sorties on a large scale. What if one of their major religious installations gets destroyed? What happens to the hearts and mind argument? I think that goes right down the toilet.
I don't think there is a strong hearts and mind argument. I think to some degree, civilians in any country understand that the people are not necessarily reflective of their government and its decisions. But I think there are decades, if not centuries, of distrust and discord amongst the civilians of any nation, be it America or Iran or anywhere else, justifiably so, because our government and their government have not treated each other well and have engaged in horrific actions. I don't know if, I think you're correct about there being a difference in terms of this isn't, you know, years ago where the argument could be made of, well, let's just try to convince everyone to like each other again.
Yeah, I have Jordanian friends that are, their kids come over here all the time, and they always have strict prayer routines and things they can and can't do. There is a hard line cultural divide. And it's all fun and games when they're playing roadblocks and whatnot. But when it comes to other things, we don't even go there. Like, I wouldn't even recommend things like Mother's Day and Father's Day was a little bit of an awkward thing. I don't even try to mess with it. And they don't mess, honestly, with my culture either. They never try to recruit my kids into any type of Islamic teaching, or they don't want you to be a part of their culture unless you want to. So it's a fundamentally different culture. You know, the husband's a doctor, the wife's a traditional Jordanian housewife, and for all extensive purposes, I don't know what that entails, but, you know, I've never seen what she looks like, and I respect their family. They have 6 kids, and we live a peaceful American life. I worry about, you know, a lot of assumptions being made with guys with military egos and Trump in their ear, and what this is going to eventually lead to.
The last thing that I'll say is, in a time like this, I worry about Pete Hegseth, right? having
Hennessy Hexath.
having someone like that that's ill-equipped to actually handle the moment, let alone talking about Donald Trump and his leadership skills. But when you take someone who doesn't have a true history of leadership, and someone who has a track record of rising to the moment, then it becomes more of a risk, right? It becomes a situation where we have the capability to not only defend ourselves and our allies, but without proper leadership, like, what happens? And so, like, I don't know where we go with that, or what type of repercussions comes from having him in place.
That's a good point, Santana, and it certainly warrants a great deal of concern that just, I think it was 2 days ago or so, on Air Force One, the President of the United States decried what his own Secretary of Intelligence stated as it relates to Iran and their nuclear capabilities. If you cannot trust the person you hired for the job in delivering intelligence to your departments, then who can we trust? Who is he getting the message from, if not directly from Netanyahu?
Absolutely.
So that's a grave concern to me.
It seems like the only person that Trump truly trusts is Netanyahu. But guys, I am going to go ahead and end the panel at this time and end the live for the evening. I have been on all day.
Can I say one quick thing?
Of course.
Just about tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah, guys. One, if you're not following me, follow this account. This is the main account now. So give me a follow. But tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, if you're interested, I am having a special brunch with my creator, Juneteenth edition. There'll be multiple Black creators that are joining me to actually talk about Juneteenth, the historical nature of it, the space of Black Americans, and also Black excellence. So it'll be a really good panel discussion. So if you're available, join tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. Thank you.
Hell yeah.
That's great. That's great. Well, I really appreciate all three of you guys for joining. And then before we end the live, after the panel leaves, I'm going to throw an image up, and I'm going to give you guys some next steps. But all three of you guys, I really appreciate you so much for coming up tonight.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate
Thanks
you.
for having me, Dean.
Appreciate you guys.
See you,
Take care.
Santana, Denisha.
Take care. Take
Yeah.
care. Take care. All right, everybody. So I am going to go ahead and end the live streams both on TikTok and YouTube for the evening. I am exhausted. I've been working all day long. We did a 4-hour stream earlier, a couple videos, another hour stream tonight. I am exhausted, but this exhaustion was absolutely necessary. You want to know why? Because while we were live here on TikTok earlier with 50,000 viewers, Charlie Kirk only had 10. So we have successfully taken thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people away from hearing the breakdown of Donald Trump's speech tonight and what the takeaways are, away from the right-wing shill to a group of free thinkers with a really decent noggin on their shoulders. So it was very necessary. Now, I'm going to keep you guys updated. I'm going to keep if you want to be updated with what's going on, I'm going to keep you updated. Here is all that you need to do. So right now I am adding an image. This will be a screenshot of my Instagram. If you follow the Instagram and join the channel, you will get a notification for every new video that I post. And I am going to be posting new videos with essentially every large update that comes along the way. So my Instagram is Dean Withers, DeanWithrs. If you look at what is circled and pointed at, if you click on that updates channel and you click join, you will then get a notification that'll look a lot like an Instagram DM every single time I post anything new. And if you do that, you'll be able to stay in the loop with exactly what is going on. So I would highly recommend that you go and do that. But I am going to go ahead and get off for the evening, but seriously follow that Instagram and join that channel for all the updates. I will see you all maybe in another video or two this evening, depending on what happens, but you will all definitely see me on this YouTube and TikTok account tomorrow, so make sure to hit that follow button or subscribe button on your way out. And for everybody that is watching, that has supported me and donated to me throughout the stream, I appreciate you. As I did state earlier, I've not been doing any shout-outs for donations today, but I have seen and read them all. But I will see you tomorrow. Peace and love. It is a very dark time in America right now, but we'll get through it together, and I'm going to keep you guys posted as things progress. Peace and love, guys. Bye, YouTube. You know I always end on